Chapter 235. The Divine Tree gazed in agony at his subordinates. There were already a few, and now there were Ching Chong, the White Tiger, and Xiao Lam. They had all lost their senses and were looking at their master as if he were an enemy. Suddenly, a whistling sound came from the right. The Divine Tree turned to look and saw Tian Cam and Lan Feng charging at him, their faces dark and filled with murderous intent. Instantly, two devastating attacks struck the Divine Tree in the face. He was caught off guard and couldn't dodge in time. The blows were so powerful that they almost knocked him over, forcing him to retreat several steps, causing tremors on the ground. The Dark King felt a sense of glee. He was witnessing a spectacular scene, watching a supreme leader being betrayed by his beloved subordinates. There was nothing more exhilarating than this. He laughed heartily and said, "There is another option, Divine Tree. You can kill them and no longer live in fear." The Divine Tree, enraged, shouted through the smoke and dust, "Shut up!" He then created a primeval forest descent to entrap all his subordinates with massive roots. Their agonized screams echoed like those of slaughtered animals, despite the Divine Tree having done nothing to harm them yet. At this moment, these beasts were in their most primal bloodthirsty state, with no intelligence left. The Divine Tree thought that the only way to free his comrades was to defeat this dark figure. If not, in just a short while, he would drive them to their deaths. The Divine Tree had to prevent this quickly. He had to defeat him swiftly. After thinking, the Divine Tree roared, "Dark King, you bastard!" 9 roots simultaneously charged forward, aiming directly at the Dark King. Meanwhile, the primeval forest behind could still hold off his subordinates for a while. Suddenly, just as the roots were about to hit their target, Chi Zi leaped in front of the Dark King. From his expression, it was clear that he had also lost his senses. The Divine Tree screamed in horror, as this strike would undoubtedly kill Chi Zi. However, before he could act, a powerful dark energy beam shot forth, strong enough to obliterate everything, piercing through the heavens. This attack not only severed the roots but also tore apart the upper body of the Divine Tree. The Dark King laughed loudly and mocked, "Ha ha ha ha! You Ziyu, why do you hesitate? With such hesitation, how can you ever hope to win?" The Divine Tree's body was shattered, not yet fully recovered. The Dark King's sorrowful, disappointed voice echoed in the space. "The feeling of being betrayed by your own people, I have felt it for a very long time." After speaking, the Dark King unleashed a light-destroying sword. Just by its name, it was clear that its attribute was to counter light and all living beings. It was truly worth every penny, as he had bought this move for an exorbitant price of 2 million points. In fact, compared to the cost of acquiring the Divine Tree's abilities, it was still quite cheap. The sword slashed towards the Divine Tree, who immediately sensed danger. But with an unrecovered body and the opponent's speed, the Divine Tree couldn't evade. The deadly sword slashed at him, and just as it touched, the Divine Tree managed to release a diamond crystallization and fortify his body, hoping to reduce the destructive power of the light-destroying attribute. Then, his entire body was engulfed and pierced by the energy sword, which annihilated everything in its path, like a nuclear bomb, disintegrating all matter within its radius at a subatomic level. At this moment, before the Dark King, there was only a cloud of dust and smoke. He tried to sense the life force of his opponent and suddenly broke into a mischievous smile. He knew that the Divine Tree was still alive. At this moment, all of the Divine Tree's subordinates were sealed within an orange-yellow sphere, floating in the air beside him like toys, all plunged into a deep sleep. The Dark King was surprised because this was the Divine Tree's ability. It turned out that the Divine Tree had used his last breath to protect his subordinates. The Dark King remarked with a sigh, "I didn't expect you to still have the strength to protect them." The Divine Tree remained silent. Now, he was reduced to his core form, a green nucleus. He turned around, his eyes shining brightly, while some roots were regrowing a bit from behind. However, the Divine Tree had indeed suffered tremendous damage. Even his nucleus was cracked. Reflecting on his current predicament, he opened the system panel and cursed, "Damn it! My spiritual power is almost depleted, and the recent attack caused even more damage to my body, becoming a burden. Oh, perhaps the divine tree had shed his body willingly. The divine tree began to consider his second strategy, to flee. At least he would take his subordinates and escape from here. But before he could finish his thoughts, the dark tendrils of the enemy had already wrapped around his nucleus, squeezing so tightly that a cracking sound could be heard. The Dark King was determined to drill into the divine tree's mind once more, saying, "This is merely a game. No matter how you protect them, they will still die after you die. And I never considered you my equal." What did this mean? It was clear that the Dark King wasn't just implying that he hated humans. He had reached the peak of arrogance, believing that the divine tree could never match him. Therefore, he would never see the divine tree as a worthy opponent. The Dark King continued, "Divine tree, you cannot prevent this from happening." Before him, 2 system panels appeared again. He was conducting another transaction. The moon was getting closer and closer to the Earth, estimated to be only a few tens of thousands of kilometers away. The Dark King, excited, shouted, "As long as this Earth continues to spin, there will be day and night. Can you stop that?" He was referring to the significance of his existence. He compared himself to the night, and his existence was an axiom. He screamed in the divine tree's face, "It's over. Do you understand?" The divine tree remained silent. This guy was clearly toxic and irrational. He didn't understand that the night in this world was for all creatures to rest peacefully. But his night brought death, hatred, and fear. But what use was it to argue with a madman? The Dark King now spoke solemnly, like a preacher. "Now, let all regrets and unwillingness vanish." He then accumulated dark spiritual energy, causing a piercing screech in the space. This attack would obliterate the divine tree into dust. The divine tree widened his eyes, completely helpless. He wondered, "So, I'm going to die, right? Have I failed? If I die, will everyone else die too?" Meanwhile, the spiritual energy sphere meant to annihilate the divine tree grew larger and its screeching louder. But at that moment, a thunderous blow struck the Dark King in the face, causing his attack to go astray. Wow, is there another hero coming to save the day? The diverted blast from the Dark King severed his own tentacle, sending the divine tree falling freely. Suddenly, a long beak grabbed the divine tree's nucleus. The divine tree was startled. Oh, it was the lucky Stork. So, the phoenix from previous chapters was someone else? At this moment, the lucky Stork was darting away frantically. The Dark King was utterly shocked. Damn it. Another fish slipped through the net, and it just performed a literal snatch and grab. Was there another forgotten foe? The Dark King's bat minions immediately pursued the mutated Stork, deciding to use ultrasonic waves to attack. But they forgot that the Stork's longer wingspan gave it superior flying speed. Not to mention, the mutated Stork had evolved significantly, with its current speed being terrifying. Suddenly, a demon buffalo appeared, blocking the path. Its aggressive face clearly showed it had no intention of letting the Stork escape. It swung an axe, hitting the mutated Stork's head. Fresh blood splattered, and the divine tree was flung from its beak. The lucky Stork was not so lucky this time. It crashed painfully to the ground. The demon buffalo and an alligator appeared, standing guard in front of the mutated Stork and the divine tree, both looking toward the Dark King as if waiting for orders. The Stork tried flapping its wings to check its joints. It could no longer fly. It panted heavily. Clearly, Hollywood's glow had abandoned it today. Suddenly, the demon buffalo and the alligator roared meaninglessly. The divine tree whispered, "White Stork, you should run away. You're no match for them." The white Stork spat out a mouthful of blood and resolutely said, "I won't run." The Dark King felt a wave of irritation at this display of camaraderie. The white Stork continued, struggling to speak, "We knew from the beginning that we might die here. And if our existence hinders this battle, then it's fine to defeat us as well." The divine tree was taken aback. He didn't expect this Stork to have such a resolute fighting spirit, truly the mark of a hero. Moreover, from the white Stork's words, it was clear the Stork had immense faith in its master. Even now, It believed that its master hadn't won because his subordinates were in the way, and he couldn't bring himself to strike them. The white stork grew weaker by the moment, blood spurting from its wounds. It spoke once more, "We don't want to be a burden. We are here to win." These words awakened the divine tree, who perhaps had been overly worried about his comrades. Reflecting on this, the divine tree responded, "Yes, you are right. We still have hope." Meanwhile, roots continued to regenerate from the nucleus, and the Dark King watched with wide eyes, never forgetting to flash a mocking, fake smile. Then, where he stood, boundless darkness began to spread around him. Standing at the pinnacle of this darkness, he praised sarcastically, "You really can bring hope to yourself, can't you?" His goal was to plunge the divine tree into despair, so whenever the divine tree regained hope, he would continue to crush it. To him, this was still just a game. At this moment, the lucky stork was ensnared by the darkness, its breathing becoming rapid and labored. But the divine tree could do nothing. The Dark King was playing a new game. His darkness once again enveloped all the bodies he still controlled. He had just acquired a new skill, declaring that the divine tree's hope would end here with this ultimate technique, fusion. End of chapter 234.